Welcome to the Wisdom of Women show. We are dedicated to amplifying the voice of women in business. A new model of leadership is emerging, and we are here to amplify the voices of women leading the way. I am your host, Coco Zellman, five-time founder, impact investor, and creator of the Force for Good system. Thank you for joining us today as we illuminate the path to unlocking opportunities and prosperity for women-led enterprises by amplifying the voice and wisdom of women. We have with us today a purpose-led architect of influence. So honored to introduce you today to Kristen Wiley, the founder and CEO of Statusphere, the leading micro-influencer platform purpose-built to scale consumer-to-consumer marketing. A former food blogger and brand manager, Kristen saw firsthand how broken the influencer marketing ecosystem was and built the infrastructure she wished existed. Today, Statusphere serves hundreds of consumer brands by eliminating the friction of influencer campaign management using 300 plus first-party data points to match brands with perfectly aligned creators. Under her leadership, the company has become a pioneer in the next frontier of marketing, social search, and C2C-led growth. Kristen is not just building software, she's building the future of how brands scale trust one real human at a time. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you so much for having me and for the kind intro.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to have you, Kristen. So as we begin, we always like to start out with one book written by a woman that has significantly influenced your life.
One popped in my head right away, and that's a book I came across later in my career, but it's called I'm Not Really a Waitress by Susie Weiss, the founder of OPI. I love her story and how she crafted her whole career and how it's just like little moments that ended up changing the whole trajectory of her career and life. And I really appreciated first person storytelling.
I have not read this book, and I love founder stories and memoirs, their stories of their experience of building their companies. So I'm not really a waitress. That's great.
Yes, it's the name of one of her nail polishes because she has all those fun nail polish names on the OPI bottles. It's the name of one of their most famous nail polishes, which is called I'm Not Really a Waitress.
I love it. I will check it out. And for everybody, let's go over to your favorite place to buy books and get yourself a copy. It sounds great. I always like to begin our conversations with learning more about you and your experience and history. Maybe share with us a few defining moments that really have shaped who you are, Kristen. So looking back, what are three defining experiences that bring you to where you are today? Those big moments of saying yes or saying no, standing your ground, facing heartbreak, overcoming something with pride, an unexpected gift. So what would be a few of those personal moments that you could share with us on your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. There's been many, but it's funny, even at Statusphere, the company jokes that we have a lot of sliding door moments where it's like those little moments that change the whole trajectory of the career. And I feel like I've had a few really key ones in my life. I would say the very first one is actually I went to school. I always wanted to be in marketing. I wanted to be a marketer since I was very little. There's videos of me making ads since I was like 6 years old. Like, it's like I always want to do an advertising, which is a very weird thing for a kid to want to go into. Social media marketing wasn't a thing I knew existed until I got into college. This is back in 2010. I went to my very first class in college for my major, which was advertising and public relations. My professor said, the very first day, you're here, but you're not going to really learn much here. You'll learn way more if you go home and you start a blog about anything. Doesn't matter what, but if you do that, you'll learn more than you will in any school class. And that night, I listened to him. It wasn't even an assignment for the class. I just did it because he said, you'll learn a bunch. And I was like, all right, that sounds fun. So I started a blog that was one of my favorites. I love crafting and baking. So I started a blog about it. And little did I know that would change the entire trajectory of my life. So that is one of the moments where I think back, if I wouldn't have started that blog, I wouldn't be anywhere close to where I am now.
What did you learn as you did that in college? Like, what was that like? Tell us about
Yeah.
that.
First, I just was like, okay, I got to figure out what a blogging platform is. Then I started learning, you start with Tumblr. Then I was like, I want a custom WordPress blog. So I learned how to build a WordPress blog. Then I was like, I want people to go to this blog. So I need to learn SEO. So I ended up learning how to optimize my blog, get BuzzFeed to pick me up. This is when BuzzFeed was big. And I was like, how do I get paid for this? I started joining all these blogger networks where I was starting to get matched with brands. And that's really the whole starting point to Statusphere.
What you talk about right there is one of the critical success factors for founders. You have to be a great problem solver, relentless in pursuit of the solution to whatever the problem is.
It's so funny you say that. People always say, like, do you like your job? My biggest dopamine hit is from solving a problem. I always say I picked the right career because there is a new problem every day, every hour, every minute. If you don't like problem solving, don't become an entrepreneur. But if you like it, it's the perfect career for you.
Particularly in the area of marketing, you're constantly trying to improve and tackle that problem of improving your conversion rates, improving whatever the hits are, and whatever those metrics are that lead to the bigger sale.
And it's constantly changing too. So you have to keep a pulse on it and you can't be stuck with what you did before. I remember when I started my blog, my main traffic was Facebook. Instagram didn't exist. So if I was stuck on Facebook, you wouldn't have been able to evolve. Marketing is ever changing.
I believe that as long as you have a real customer and a real problem, growth is a puzzle you can solve, but you have to be able to identify what the problems are and then solve them through data.
I think one of my favorite quotes is you have to be in love with the problem, not the solution. If you are in love with the problem, you will figure it out as an entrepreneur. But that's where entrepreneurs get into a tricky spot when they fall in love with the solution, because the solution can change.
So that was your first experience.
Yes.
You created your first food blog. What would be your second moment?
I got hired out of college at a PR agency managing their blogger network. My professor was correct. They didn't care about my degree. They just were like, the blog, we want you to do this. So for the next several years, I worked at different PR agencies and I ended up at a content marketing agency doing both sales and building out their influencer marketing offerings. While I was there, I had an amazing boss that I'm still so thankful, and he's still an advisor today, who is very supportive. I had this idea for Statusphere for years and I told him about it. Some bosses may not support you, but I was very lucky that he was supportive. He could see that I was probably going to outgrow. Instead of trying to stop me, he supported me, which I really appreciate. When I was going to make the jump, I was like, okay, I'm going to start this company. I started as a side hustle. I'm getting ready to do it. I got another job offer. It was like a dream job offer, double the money I was making as a 20-something-year-old. And it was the moment where I had to decide, do I want to go for it and build this thing? I've never been an entrepreneur in this sense before. Do I take this amazing job with a female founder who I loved, offering me an unprecedented role for someone my age? There was a week of no sleeping, and I was like, what am I going to do? I love her. I love what she's building. Her company was still very small, but she had raised funding. My funding journey was a lot because of how I learned from her. I ended up making the decision, which she respected as a fellow female founder. You will love the full circle moments. The moment where I made my decision was like, what will I regret more? If somebody else builds Statusphere, I will never be able to forgive myself. That was the moment it switched for me. And I was like, I'm doing it. So I told her this. She was bummed, but she understood. She also became an advisor and ended up becoming an investor later on. Her company ended up being a unicorn. How crazy is that?
I feel like so much of our ability to launch great businesses that have impact and vision is our ability to listen to our guidance and wisdom, right? We were craving something deep within you, and you were willing to do that, not because you didn't have any other choices, but because it was such a great option.
Yeah. And I was talking to friends, my parents. Finally, a friend was like, yeah, what are you going to regret more? And I've used that question to answer. It makes everything so much more decisive. Whenever I'm at a crossroads, I say, which one will I regret more? And it just is a really easy litmus test to make a decision, at least for me. That was the first time I used that framework. And so far, it's worked out for me.
We can all put that wisdom of which choice will I regret more? And that helps us to surface the right answer. So tell us your third moment.
My third moment, I started the company. When I say I started the company, I was an advertising major. I had no degree. I had no idea how to start a business. I went to a lawyer and I was like, I'm trying to start a company. This is what I want to do. And the lawyer said, you can't start a company like that. I was like, what? It doesn't even make sense. I knew very little. Now I know better. And I'm telling this story for hopefully if you have listeners as well. Lawyers definitely don't know everything, and it all depends on what category they're in. If I would have listened to that lawyer, I would have never started the company because he was like, what you're doing. I realized he didn't have background in what I was doing, but I paid money to talk to a lawyer to tell me I couldn't start the company. Just like not listening to him. Looking back, I think there's a world where maybe I did, but I was like, no, I'm not listening to him. I'm just going to do it anyways. And now I'm so glad that I did. But there's so many of those moments where you really have to listen to your gut and realize that nobody knows what they're doing. And their biggest thing, once I realized that nobody, no matter how big their job is, no matter how successful they are, they don't really know what they're doing. They're just problem solving. And once you realize that, it opens up a whole door of possibilities. I think that was my moment when I was like, you know what? I don't think anyone knows any better than I do. It gave me the confidence to start.
I love that, Kristen. There's such wisdom in that. And to acknowledge you, to just be able to say, like, okay, this person who's supposed to be an expert, I don't have to listen to them. As entrepreneurs, we learn that. We get a lot of advice, and you want to be open, coachable. However, we want to manage our risk. We don't want to just drive the company off a cliff. And at the same time, we don't have to listen to our advisors every single time.
Yep.
And good for you, because I'm sure this person isn't an entrepreneur.
There's another saying, don't listen to anyone who hasn't done more than you in that specific area. They probably wouldn't be criticizing you because they know how hard it is to get there. And to your point, all advice is helpful, but it's not always good. It gives you some context of what people think, but at the end of the day, it's not all good advice.
When you're starting a company, it's very tempting to feel vulnerable and feel like you have to listen to all these people that are supposed to know more than you. It's one of the traits that separate the girls from the women, the ones who are able to say, you know what? Thank you. I appreciate the advice. I'm going to follow a different path. I mean, I'm the same way as you, Kristen. I started a healthcare company and I never worked in healthcare. It was just like you said, one problem after the next. So let's go to Statusphere for a second. You led a little bit when talking about your food blog experience and then working up in PR and content, that there was a need, something broken you wanted to solve. What frustrated you so deeply that you knew you had to build Statusphere, and why? What happened that made you see that Statusphere was required, the problem and the solution?
Yeah, great question. I was working at all those different agencies running influencer marketing campaigns, and I was using all the different softwares that existed out there. There were a lot of them, even maybe less now than back in the day. I tried all of them and I saw how much money our agency was paying for these softwares. I was using them as both a brand and as a creator. I felt like there were so many holes in the process. I don't feel like this was designed by somebody who was ever a creator or the brand doing this, at least how I felt. And being a problem solver, you realize that's the main common denominator of an entrepreneur is you're just like, I want to solve this problem. Like I see it, had my creator friends who were complaining they were getting pitched brands that had nothing to do with their content. I would have vegan friends getting pitched beef jerky and things like that. That's a bad experience. On the brand side, the brands could not find the creators and scale it the way they wanted to. I saw this vision of the future where I was like, there's a way to match these creators and brands at scale. And the other piece that I think was so key was these micros. I felt like the micro influencer or these creators with smaller amounts of followers, if you could get them to be a big army for you, you could make as much impact as a Super Bowl ad. If you have 1,000 people posting about you on social media, that's worth more than a Super Bowl ad. How can we build a platform that can do that? All these small voices together mean a lot, but it's hard with big brands. They have big budgets, so they can't just do a few creators here, a few creators there. I could see this really win-win platform coming together, and that's where the idea for Statusphere came from. I want this in my life as both a creator and a brand. I also see where the industry is heading toward these micro influencers, these real people with real voices.
Amazing. So for all of our listeners who maybe aren't just familiar with influencer marketing, tell us what exactly Statusphere does.
Yes, we help brands scale micro influencer marketing. Our claim to fame is we're the only platform that can get over 1,000 people posting on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube with less than an hour of setup time by the brands. So if you want a 1,000 people posting on TikTok about your new shampoo that targets women with curly hair. You can go on our platform and say, I want women between this age range who have this curl pattern of hair, who have kids or who have a Costco membership. And then our software, those 300 data points, make sure that they post. We have full AI integration now. The AI reviews every piece of content for brand guidelines, brand safety, everything like that. If you're doing 1,000 creators, you can't be reviewing them one by one. And then ultimately the brands have all the content and the creators get those amazing collaborations really easily with only a few clicks.
That's amazing. How do you measure success in your platform?
Influencer marketing historically, that's one of the hardest things. Marketing in general, but really influencer marketing tracking is the holy grail. We are investing a lot into seeing how we can better track, but I tell my clients this all the time. Honestly, there's not a really great way to track because the buyer's journey does not, you don't just see an ad and buy immediately. It just doesn't happen. The studies used to be that you need to see a product or an ad 7 times before you convert. I think the latest stat is like 19 times. So it's raising incredibly. So attribution is very hard. Brands are seeing amazing results, and how they see it is they all have different metrics that are success for them. Our biggest buckets are either retail support, sending creators into retail. Brands will measure lift in terms of their retail sales. Also, brands will be using the content in ads, which is a really easy way to see the ROI because creator content or user generated content performs so well. You've probably seen that on your Instagram a million times. Brands need that content. Creators want those jobs to be able to create that content. And then some brands as well, it's just like pure brand awareness. Do we have more people talking about us online? Do we have this many pieces of content going live? The most exciting new piece in marketing is social SEO, which is getting brands to rank in social search on TikTok and Instagram. The last stat I saw was like 74% of Gen Z searches on TikTok instead of Google. So how, like, it's my early days of blogging, right? Like, how do you rank on Google? Now everyone's like, how do you rank on TikTok when people search best shampoo for curly hair? How do you rank on Instagram? Just last week, Google announced that they're now surfacing Instagram content into Google because people want this so much. That's a whole category where brands use that to rate how well their campaigns are doing.
That gives you a way for brands to expand their ability to touch more customers. This is like big brands. You work with big brands typically, right? Your market is huge.
And as a founder, I think other founders will appreciate this. We didn't start with the big companies because we had to grow the marketplace. But in the last year and a half, we really got to the scale, that vision of getting 1,000 people posting. We finally hit that threshold where our network was large enough to support these campaigns with thousands of creators. So now our main brands that use our platform are those bigger enterprise clients. So we work with like P&G and like those large CPG customers, Coty. So brands like CoverGirl really want to get 1,000 people posting and get that buzz going about their brand.
It's amazing. But to get there, you started with smaller companies as your target market. And then as you built your company, you were able to finally earn the credibility to go into these larger enterprise players.
Exactly. We see it kind of in stages because we do have a two-sided marketplace. So we really had to build both sides of the marketplace very strategically so that we could give a good experience to both sides.
And so you've talked about customer to customer marketing, C2C marketing as the next frontier. And what do you mean by that? What have you seen that others maybe haven't seen? And what shifts are you moving into as a leader in this new frontier?
Yeah, we bet really early on that micro influencer was going to be where it was heading. This is what I was seeing even back in 2016, 2017, when I was working at the agencies. I was like, this is where it's heading, is these micros. If you remember, most brands actually wanted to just work with the big creators. The smart, smaller brand, or we're starting to get on page. I think we were really lucky to skate to where the puck was heading and really double down on this micro. And I would say starting in like 2020, 2021, larger brands started realizing, oh, the micros is where the ROI is. And that's what we were seeing years before and what I was seeing at the agency. Brands understand micro, but I really think it's this community-driven commerce and what we call C2C or consumer to consumer marketing. So if you think of the eras of marketing, you started with newspaper, display, then radio, then digital era, and programmatic ads, and then social. I think the next generation of marketing is going to be this consumer to consumer or community-driven commerce. If anything is a good signal for why it's heading this way, it's the explosion of AI, because as AI explodes, people are craving that human to human connection. Like I always say, if you see a creator posting about OPI, talking about the nail polish, and how it works on her nails and how she does it, that's almost worth 3 touches of the banner ads or an AI generated piece of content, right? So I think that word of mouth, which has always been the number one marketing channel, we are finally at a place where we can track and scale it and actually make it a real channel. So I think the evolution of platforms like TikTok and the Instagram algorithms are leaning
Mhm.
us to. All of our spheres of influence are so large and actually trackable for each one of us. I think that human to human, consumer to consumer is going to become really important.
I'm curious too, what's your view on affiliate sales through influencers, micro influencers?
I have a whole soapbox I can get on about affiliate marketing. To answer that question, you have to go back to the history of affiliate marketing. The infrastructure for affiliate marketing was built for publishers that do top 10 nail polishes and they link those in there. That's what the current affiliate infrastructure that's been built. There's kind of a monopoly in the space. That's what it's been built on. Now, with this layer of creators, people are trying to merge affiliate and creator, which makes total sense. What I think is where things are heading. We're waiting for the right infrastructure to be built. The one that's gotten closest to it is TikTok Shop. That's probably the most easy way to see affiliate coming together with creator in the most natural way, but that's only on TikTok and it's only one subset. I think there's still so much more to go. Like we're at V1 of 10 versions of this. That's something that we're going to be investing a lot in to really nail that connection between the affiliate and the creator. My own pet peeve is that TikTok, Instagram, and Google are getting all this ad revenue. I'm saying I like your glasses, and then I go buy it on Google, and Google gets credit. I want you to get credit, right? I think that's where the world is heading. We want to skate to where the puck is heading. That is definitely top on my roadmap.
Thank you for sharing that. I've been hearing about this a lot lately as I talk to various brands, and I wondered what you thought about it and where we're going with it. You painting this picture of the future is helpful for all of us as we're thinking about our own marketing strategies and leveraging the technology that exists. You've had a journey, right? And you've raised money. Tell us about how you funded Statusphere.
Great question. So I am a entrepreneur that did not go to business school. I went to a nice college, the University of Central Florida. I didn't know anything about starting a business. So I always say if I can start a business and raise funding, anybody can. I had no idea even how to start one. I joined a small business incubator program in Orlando, Florida. They teach you how to create an LLC, which then I had to turn into a C Corp. I got a few people around me who had actually started companies. And I think that was the starting point. There was a very small entrepreneur community, but I plugged myself into it. And I realized, oh my gosh, this is actually venture backable. Once I learned what a venture backed company was, I was like, I want to build this as big as it can get. The only way I can compete is to really go that venture route, which I think is important because not every company needs to be venture backable. If I start another company in the future, I would really think hard about that. There are pros and cons of both sides. But that being said, I want to build the billion-dollar company. I'm going to go for it and problem solve as we go. Once I started it as a side hustle while working my other job with my supportive boss, I built the revenue up enough to go full time. How I did that was through pitch competitions. I did every pitch competition there was out there, which there are money tied to these pitch competitions. And not just the money was the best part, but it really honed my storytelling. Before I ever pitched an investor, all I did was pitch competitions. So by the time I got to the next stage to pitch investors, my storytelling had gotten tight and I'd gotten a lot better at the pitching process. Then I went to San Francisco to get funding because there was not money in Florida to get venture funding. I'd never been to San Francisco, but I was applying to more pitch opportunities and one popped up in San Francisco. So I got on a plane using the pitch money I won from my last competition, flew out there. I ended up pitching an investor out there and he ended up being our first angel investor. And he's a very well-known investor. So that's also helped us to leverage to raise the next rounds as well. So Jason Calacanis, who runs Launch, we went through Launch Accelerator, and that's what the accelerator programs for people for entrepreneurs who are not in who don't have a background in it, I think are very valuable and was totally worth it to me because it just put me in the deep end of pitching investors every single week, learning convertible notes, learning what a safe was, talking to those lawyers that know all that stuff. So that was a big jump for me and an acceleration for Statusphere.
Wonderful. And I know you then went on and did a seed round. Where are you at this point? Tell us.
Yeah. So one thing I've also learned is the rounds I don't know. They're named as you go, but we've raised seed. We're getting ready to raise our Series A. We did an angel round, a pre-seed round, and a seed round to get to the point we're at today. We have some great investors that came into our seed round. I feel like that's when we really leveled up the company. We have How Women Invest who came on board. We have Hearst Ventures. They've been incredible. So like the large publishing company, they have a investment arm specifically for female founders. If you are a female founded tech company, I highly recommend Hearst Lab. They've been incredible and really accelerated us as well.
That's how I met you, through How Women Invest. It's been super fun to be a part of your journey and see what great things your company is building. You have had a lot of progress. Could you please share some examples of your wins, like your traction? I think it's important for our listeners to know the examples of somebody who's gone through a series of raises, where you are and how you look at traction.
So I was just reflecting on this, so it's perfect timing. It's definitely a few stages. First, you're hobbling together your MVP, your minimum viable product, and you're just trying to see if there's any semblance of product market fit. Will people buy this? Will people do that? We followed the lean startup methodology. Like, we still do not build anything unless a customer is asking for it. Luckily, our engineers love this because they're never building things that aren't used. You really should be embarrassed of that MVP. Like the first version of the platform, non-technical founder, I just built a really ugly MVP. I use no coding tools, which now the no coding tools are way better than they used to be. I built this version and I got my first few customers. And I was like, if they're willing to buy this, just wait when I actually build it. And that's what allowed me to fundraise and get funding to build it out. The first version of the company is just an MVP, getting someone to pay for something. Then you're like, how do I get product market fit? How do I find that real market that takes off and that word of mouth? We are a two-sided marketplace. So I had to figure that out on the creator side and the brand side. Luckily, the creator side, I feel like I lived and breathed that side. So I feel like we nailed that pretty early on. To this day, a majority of our applicants are from other creators. But on the brand side, we had to really find that product market fit. About a year ago, once we moved into enterprise, which is what our goal has been since day one, we really found that product market fit. So to give some numbers, we've more than doubled our revenue in the last 6 months due to expansions alone. Now that I've hit the product market fit, you will clearly know when you have product market fit, when customers just keep spending more money and you're not even doing anything extra. Once we've hit that, we're capitalizing and trying to put gas on the fire and make it as big as it can get. I think we've really found our product market fit, and that should be the first step before you scale up your marketing initiatives.
That's such great advice, because you gave us a perfect example of what product market fit looks like. You doubled your revenue in the last 6 months. That's showing that people are buying. How did you balance how much to develop, how much to change, how much to improve your product until then? And how do you know whether marketing, how much to market, what to market? How did you think about development investments and marketing investments until you got to this stage of product market fit?
Yeah, definitely do things that don't scale early on. Like, don't think about scale in your early days. At least that's my opinion. You need to pivot your pricing. There's your actual product, how you price it. There's how you do renewals. There's how you market it. There's your actual customer base. Like, you need to make sure you're lining all of these things up. It might just be one that's a little off, and tweaking each one over time. We started with the product, got people buying it, but then I noticed they weren't renewing at the rate I wanted to and expanding at the rate they wanted to. So then we had to be like, why is that? Is that because of the product, or is it because we're pricing it wrong, or is it because of this? So then we tweaked the pricing. Then we saw that shifted a little bit. If our platform is built for getting 1,000 creators posting, if brands are using it only to get 10 or 15 creators posting, a lot of competition, and they could do that on their own. When brands come to us and say they want that small of a creators, we're like, you might want to do it on your own. When I analyzed our customer base, we realized the customers that were expanding had some very similar things in common, which was the fact that they were running much larger campaigns. And we were like, they're the ones that are expanding. So we shifted up market, which we knew we had to take the steps because of what I said earlier with the marketplace. It's not like I regret those steps, but just going back to your question about how do you know? You kind of have to look at all those variables and constantly just keep tweaking and talking to your customer. Always be talking to your customer, because that's the best way to move things along fastest.
In your journey, it probably looks different now than in the beginning, but tell us how you listen and talk to your customer.
Yeah, so we really have two arms of our business. On the creator side, we have an innovation team where we invited our top creators to speak and have interviews with us. In the early days, I would do that. And now we have a team member who, like, she'll meet with them every month, couple months, get feedback, have that feedback loop as well. So that's what we do on the creator side. On the brand side, I was the sales team. So every single time I was selling, I'd be taking notes of why they didn't buy and then tweaking it and building out a really good team who's constantly doing that as well and giving you that feedback loop. So I would say if you're not the salesperson, you need to use a recording tool, like record those and you can watch them later. I use a platform called Gong, but you can even just use the recording tool or the AI tool. It's amazing watching those recordings, how much you can glean and how you can hear little things that make a huge difference to your product and customer that you may have overlooked.
I love your openness to learning, trying things, and continuing to tweak until you find that solution. We talked about the desire to solve challenges, be open, but also know when to listen to your own voice. This is one of those things that like makes or breaks entrepreneurs. You have to be willing to listen, tweak, be wrong, and take feedback.
If you can let that go, it makes it a little less stressful. Assume that you're going to be wrong. The culture we've tried to build with the company, it's funny. We have bugs. The engineering team just the other week had a large bug. If we're not having one large bug a quarter, we're not moving fast enough. I'm concerned if we don't have it. There's a threshold. You don't want to be making errors everywhere, but as long as you're learning from them and it's not the same mistake you're making each time, I expect myself and our team to make a ton of mistakes. If you can't own it, we tried that, it didn't work. To me, that's a win. If you tried something and it didn't work, great, we accomplished something.
We tried it and now we know we won't do that again. We'll try else, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Kristen, you're brilliant and a true entrepreneur. And it is such a pleasure to be here with you. I just want to close this now to our fast round where I ask you 5 quick questions and you give us 5 quick answers so we get to know you even more. Number 1, your go-to coffee order.
Black coffee.
Yes.
Just black. And it has to be iced. I'm from Florida. So
I love it. Black iced coffee. Next question. Favorite smell?
Oh, that's a good one. I like a real clean, like citrusy, like after the house is just cleaned. Like that's my favorite scent.
City that brings out the woman in you.
Oh, that's a good one. I feel like there's a different one with every stage of my career and life. I feel like it was San Francisco, and then lately it's been New York. I feel the most at home in New York, and I just love the people that I meet there too.
Most underrated pleasure?
Doing nothing. I think I've gotten better at this because I didn't used to be as good at it, but you really have to realize that sometimes just doing nothing or like vegging out is productivity. And if you reframe your brain that way, it can be really helpful. There's just a day where I really need that and it makes me so much more productive later.
I totally love that. And I agree with you. My most underrated pleasure is B-grade hospital shows.
My recent hobby, which I'm trying to make a thing again because I love it, is pinball. I played it not too long ago and now I found a place near me. It's really fun, very satisfying and mindless, but entertaining.
That's awesome. And last question is, if your heart could leave a Post-it note on the world, what would it say?
Leave a Post-it note on the world. Well, I hope that I made it a better place. So I think that would be the main thing.
Make the world a better place.
Yeah.
I love that. Kristen, I appreciate you so much. And I have loved getting to know you through How Women Invest and watching your company grow and evolve. How can we as a community support and serve you? What are ways we can help Statusphere?
I appreciate that, especially from a fellow entrepreneur. Love people connecting on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. From an ask perspective, if you do know any large brands, just letting them know that Statusphere exists. We're trying to get the word out. Our biggest pain point right now is brand awareness. We hear of a lot of brands that say, I wish I would have known about you earlier. Now that we have product market fit, we're really trying to scale up. Big brands take a while to get into. So if you know anybody at any level, having them hear about Statusphere is a big win for us.
Beauty brands, consumer brands.
Any brand you see in Target, Whole Foods, Walmart, they're great for anything from pet products to beauty products to food products, frozen foods, anything like that.
Be sure to check out Statusphere. You'll see details in the description below in our show notes. You can also follow Kristen on LinkedIn. I follow her there, and you can watch all the good things happening for Statusphere and Kristen and all the good things she's bringing to the world. Thank you, Kristen, for being here today and helping us unlock the path to opportunity and prosperity and giving a voice of wisdom to our community. For all of you listeners, please follow, like, and share the Wisdom of Women show on your favorite platform to infuse more wisdom into your business, be sure to take the Growth Readiness Quiz at aforceforgood.biz/quiz and uncover where your insight is needed most. The world is made better by women-led business. Let's all go make the world